The Evolution Security Podcast.
Let's talk about an awesome training opportunity. We are super pumped to be hosting John Murphy of FPF Training for his Street Encounters, Skills, and Tactics class, the 5th and 6th of November 2022, just outside Fort Bragg, North Carolina. This class will teach life-saving material to include Stop the Bleed Medical, Pre-Encounter Management, Pre-Assault, Proper Pepper Spray Use and Deployment, Essential Shooting Skills, Scenario-Based Decision-Making, Post-Fight, and more. For tickets, go to our show notes and find the class link, or go to John's website, fpftraining.com, and look for the class in his course calendar. Also, listen to John on our podcast, episode 66, to learn more about him and tap into his vast knowledge. Come join us for our EvoSec defensive pistol class just outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina on June 11th, 2022. This is an 8-hour level 1 pistol course focusing on a fundamental defensive pistol platform from the holster, moving into dynamic shooting principles from concealment. Even though marksmanship is covered, it is a class that focuses on marksmanship and gun handling skills from a fighting perspective. You will leave this class having a solid shooting platform from extreme close distance out to typical fighting range. Most importantly, you'll leave understanding how to practice and become more capable of defending yourself and or a loved one in the event of a violent encounter. For tickets and more information, go to the Eventbrite link in the show notes or go to our website at evosec.org and find it on our upcoming events. Come train with us.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Evolution Security Podcast. We've got the Tactical Twins here, my twin brother Eric, a couple of 1,000 miles away. I don't know how far you are these days, Eric, but...
Yeah, I think it's only around 1,600 miles. I'll have to look at it again. It's not near as far as when I was up in Washington State. So,
man, Washington would have taken me, I think, 24 hours to drive. Your new place is still, 18 or so.
Yeah,
but
it is right about 18 hours.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's awesome to be hanging out with you as always, man.
Oh yeah. Lots of fun. It's been a heck of a week. Before I got on here, I was doing my taxes, finishing my taxes actually, and everybody.
Well, being an accountant, that ought to be easy for you, right?
Well, lots of people think that if you're an accountant, you're a tax genius. That's a bunch of crap. It's just like anything else, you know. There's specialties. My specialty is internal accounting for manufacturing firms. But yeah, I know a little more about taxes than the average person that works on their own. But I just use TurboTax and get it done. I just have to know what I can write off for both of my businesses. So,
well, awesome. Well, man, what do you think about getting into this interview?
Let's do it, man.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome a very special guest to me, my jiu-jitsu instructor, Lee King of Team ROC of Southern Pines. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going well, man. What are you up to this evening? I know you're at the gym currently.
Yeah, we're just kind of rolling out this new competition class, trying to get people ready for doing some competition jiu-jitsu stuff.
Oh, that's right. I had forgotten that started tonight. Is it as welcoming for us old jiu-jitsu guys?
Absolutely.
I'm just
as long as you don't mind going a little bit harder than normal.
Yeah, and it's since I've kind of been on a roll recently, and I don't know if you noticed, as I've been at this gym, I do a lot of TDY, right? And you notice that I haven't been gone a lot, right?
Right.
So because of this COVID BS, I'm one of those that refuses to get the vaccination, and currently my agency will not let me travel. So I'm like, hey, just more jiu-jitsu.
Man, that's a bummer, Eric. Shoot.
Now the downside, I'm not gonna lie, I get more overtime when I'm TDY, but that's not that big of a deal. I'd rather, I'm having such a good opportunity to focus on my jiu-jitsu that I'm cool with it, frankly.
Anytime you can focus on jiu-jitsu is a good time.
Always. It's been so much of my focus. My shooting is starting to suffer. Aaron can attest. I mean, for a long time, we would shoot once a week, if not 2 or 3 times a month at least. And man, I haven't shot much at all in the last few months. And I just decided it's okay because, I'll just put my focus in my jiu-jitsu. Well, Lee, listen, for our audience members that may not know you, can you give us a short bio, buddy?
Yeah. My name is Lee King. Born and raised North Carolina. Not far from the academy, actually, about a half an hour away. Started jiu-jitsu in 2007 after not doing anything at all, like no sports or anything, just hanging out. And then some of my buddies talked me into starting training. And so when I say talk me into it, they kind of peer pressured me into it, and I fell in love with it. So I've been here with the Martial Arts Academy of Southern Ponds and Team Rock Southern Ponds since 2007, with the exception of a little bit of time when I was in Colorado. I trained at Gracie Baja, Colorado Springs. Other than that, I've trained here with the same guys. I did a little bit of MMA back in the day. Last fight was in 2009. Now I'm the team leader. I'm not the instructor. You've heard me say this before.
I know.
I'm not an instructor. I'm just the part of the team that knows a little, not even knows a little bit more. I'm the part of the team that's got a little more experience. Because calling myself an instructor puts me on a pedestal that I don't feel like I belong on. And I also teach hand-to-hand for SOCP.
Well, Lee, I would like to comment, and I always, and it's not a disrespectful disagreement. I absolutely see you as my instructor and our instructor, and I'll add that, through your leadership and the way you guys have the gym set up and the opportunities that we have at the gym, I've trained with a lot of people, and just frankly, this has been the formula where I've learned the most under. And
I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So I, just wanted to make sure. And I think I've told you something similar to that before, but it's true, and you deserve credit for, again, your leadership and how you're running the gym and running the curriculum and the opportunities we have. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. I try to do it whenever I was handed the program a few years ago. I just tried to do whatever I could to make it as growth producing as possible, if that's even a term. Create an environment, foster an environment that allows the most growth possible across the board, from beginner to black belt.
Yeah, I absolutely see that, Lee, and I think that's why it was important for me to point that out, because you deserve recognition for that. And we have a huge swath of people, and being that we live in an area outside of one of the biggest military bases, Army posts, that we've got a lot of people come and go, various assignments. So you have a lot of personalities but it's a huge family environment at our gym, and I think that's another factor is like it just really feels like family, and I felt that way at my other gyms, but there's just a degree more so here at our gym. So yeah, it's been really good for me.
That's what I try to do, is just build however dysfunctional we may happen to be. I just try to be as big a family as we could possibly be.
Yeah, nice. Well, Lee, real quick, and I'll let my brother come in here too. Who would you say is your biggest influence on your jiu-jitsu and or your MMA, maybe both?
It's really hard to say who the biggest influence is, because I've had so many great people to kind of direct my path. Roy Marshall is a very good one. Larry Hughes is a very good one. Greg Thompson has played a big part in what I do. Obviously, all those guys are under or from Hoist. They all got their black belts from Hoist. So obviously, you can't say those guys without saying Hoist.
Oh yeah, you can argue Hoist had such a huge. I mean, if not, I mean, of course, it was the UFC and Hoist's introduction in the U.S., but I mean that is a big part of why jiu-jitsu is what it is in the United States. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean, I still remember the first time I saw the UFC, and frankly, you know, I was in Taekwondo at the time, and I had been reading the Deo of Jeet Kune Do, which caused me to want to seek out other training, and I found a Dan Inosanto Jeet Kune Do concepts and MMA before it was what it is,
right?
And I was seeking out jiu-jitsu even before I really knew what I wanted out of it. So it's real interesting how much the UFC affected all of us,
right?
Well, Aaron, you got any questions? Because Aaron Lee, he is also trains heavily in jiu-jitsu, so he might have a few thoughts.
Well,
awesome.
Well, heavily is an exaggeration, but so if you're familiar with the Gracie system, how they have the curriculum, and then you spend what should take you about a year and a half to 2 years to get your combatives belt, test for that combatives belt. And then I kind of look at it like in Taekwondo as how they have the recommended black belts. Well, it's like a recommended blue belt. So that's where I am right now. I'm probably 3 months away from my blue belt. The funny thing is, Eric kind of mentioned, you know, being tied up with shooting for a while and then wanting to get back into jiu-jitsu. And he can attest to this. I've spent a ton of time on my shooting while he's been spending a lot of time in jits. Well, it just so happens I've kind of had a lull in my shooting, and I'm trying to hit my jits harder. But I can say this, and I think we've talked. This is always one little point of contention for me, as someone that really is just kind of barely at the blue belt level. So you go straight to a class that's full of blue belts and purple belts, you know, and the long continuum between those, the beginning of blue and end of purple, and you're going over new techniques every single freaking class, and it just overwhelms me. And so, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? If that's just part of the jiu-jitsu path, or if you think there's a better way to handle that?
So I teach in a little bit different way. I teach in flows. That's just the way that, like, the method that was taught to me and it worked for me learning. So it's just the way that I teach. So not everybody teaches that way. I'm not a huge fan of the random techniques that don't seem to fit together, because I feel like for me and my not so smart brain, I learn better if everything fits together like a puzzle.
Well, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make clear. I mean, there's definitely a cycle that they have, but and that's what they call it. They call it the master cycle, and it's a cycle that literally is a freaking year. You know, and there's guard techniques. There's escapes from the guard. There's escapes from side control, and they're just long swaths of basic groundings like that. But man, it's just still just so many techniques, and it overwhelms me. So about 3/4 through these classes, I'm like, okay, I've retained about half of this just for this evening. The rest of it, I'm just shutting my brain off. So,
right. So I do a similar method called I call it the spaghetti method, where I teach a lot of detail, with the intention of most of it sticking, or at least some of it sticking, because I feel like if I can teach you 100 steps and you miss 4 or 5, it's okay. But if I teach you 4 steps and you miss 1, then that's a much bigger chunk that you've missed. So I call it spaghetti method because a long time ago, I guess, if you throw a spaghetti noodle at the wall, it stuck, then it was done. So I considered the details ball of spaghetti. So we throw it at the wall, whatever sticks, you circle it, you write whatever it is under the wall, you pick the rest of it up and stick it in a bag. Then when we come back, so we circle back around to it, we throw that same ball of spaghetti, or pick up whatever details or whatever spaghetti noodles fell off and throw them back at the wall. So now you're just building layer on layer of the details.
Interesting. Well, yeah, and I've had it been put to me. I need to understand that it's normal for there to be a ton of techniques at basically every school. It just, as a fairly new guy, but, well, I guess I'm not. It took me 4 years to do what should have taken me 2 years, and that's because of multiple things. It was COVID, it was my eye exam, other things, me focusing on my shooting more than jiu-jitsu, things like that. But, and then...
Well, Aaron, you might recall, sorry to interject like that, but you may recall we had this conversation, and Lee, I think you and I may have mentioned this to you, and maybe even mentioned my conversation with my brother, is that I remember feeling that way. I remember feeling overwhelmed at times, and it's like, and you'll still feel that way sometimes. I mean, I still feel that way from time to time, and I know I'm just a 4-stripe blue belt, but there was this epiphany that happened. I don't know how long ago it was, but I just started noticing it more and more and more, as I think with that time and that maturity on the mats, your brain is used to seeing particular groups of movements. They may be disparate sometimes, but then they also are so related. And once your brain has seen it so many times and you've done various techniques that almost relate, your brain can pick up on those techniques a lot easier. Like you just see a technique executed and you're like, okay, that makes sense. I'm seeing how he's moving this way versus that way.
Right.
And would you agree with that, Lee? And you probably it's probably a lot more pronounced for you, but I probably only noticed that probably about 6 months to a year ago.
Right. I call it the matrix. Right. In the beginning, it's like the numbers are flying by you and you have no idea what's going on. And then the more you train, the longer you get into it, the more the matrix slows down and everything starts to make more sense.
Well, I'll have to kind of double down on possibly why I feel so overwhelmed sometimes. Man, I've worked really hard and thank God have been pretty successful at some really difficult things like music and and accounting and things like that. I'm telling you.
And shooting.
Yeah, shooting. I can't believe I forgot that. But and I really feel like jiu-jitsu is the most difficult thing I've done. I don't know if it's the way my brain works or if it really is just that difficult, but I mean, I just find it as a big challenge. I love it, and it has to be part of my life. But, I just wonder how many people out there feel like I do sometimes.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think everybody feels like that at least 10 times in their jiu-jitsu career. If they make it past that blue belt barrier, you've heard the statistics. Anybody who's trained jiu-jitsu for more than about 5 days has heard the statistic. If you make it past blue belt, you're in it for life.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it seems to be about 80% of people who start jiu-jitsu either make it to blue belt or stop before they ever get there. And only like 1% of people who start jiu-jitsu make it to black belt. I'm working on that. I'm getting there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are, and working hard at it. And I'll ask you this, at my current level, and this is what I've observed, and I just wanted to ask your educated view. It seems like when folks make purple, they almost guarantee they're going to make black. Is that something that you've seen, or?
Generally, yes. Generally speaking, yeah, that is the case. To me, it's even earlier than that. I say once you make it past, past blue belt, but 2-stripe blue belt seems to be about the limit. If you make it past that second stripe on your blue belt, then that's where I'd say probably 90% of the people who make it past that second stripe on their blue belt will make it to black belt. A lot of times it's not due to the fact that they feel overwhelmed. They don't like it anymore or whatever. Most of the time it's life things that happen that don't allow them to go past that second stripe on their blue belt. That's what I've seen in my personal experience.
Well, Lee, it's interesting. I've mentioned this on this show several times. Of course, you're tracking that Origin is one of our sponsors.
Right.
We're real lucky to have that, especially we're not big time. But I heard Pete Roberts say one time, and it really has stuck in my brain as a very salient point about this path, is that life happens around you when you're on the jiu-jitsu path. It everything from injuries. I mean, I am probably probably one of the best examples of injuries. Aaron knows this. How many injuries I've had. I'm a 10-year blue belt, and some of that's, again, it's all life. But I always return to it.
How many deployments have you been on to sandboxes, bro?
Yeah, that is actually one of the biggest contributors. And in many cases, there were jiu-jitsu classes. Sometimes there wasn't.
Well, bro, I don't want to interrupt other than saying that, dude, I remember at least in that time period 5 or 6 long stints overseas.
Oh, yeah. Aaron, you're probably, 6 deployments during that time, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Is it okay to say where you've been, or
Oh yeah, most.
So I mean, we're talking about a couple of times.
It's not OPSEC. It's not OPSEC to say where I've been, and I think we talked about it. Yeah, so Afghanistan and Iraq. I've been both of those places multiple times, and
Qatar and
yeah, those are just kind of ancillary.
Stationed in South Korea for a while and all that jazz. I don't know if that was during your jiu-jitsu time or not.
Not certainly during my blue belt journey.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to interject that because it's not just you've been sitting on your butt for 10 years.
Yeah. So back to Pete Roberts' point. Is that life happens around your jiu-jitsu, and you just have to keep going.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, then that's what's going to happen is you're going to quit or you're just not going to progress. But most likely you're going to quit. If you don't allow the life to go just around your jiu-jitsu and keep moving, then that's what's going to happen.
Something that I look at and something that you apply from that little statement you just made is that you can use it from jiu-jitsu to apply to your life is be comfortable in uncomfortable positions. So you have to go with the flow and you can't fight it. You just got to let it work.
Well, you just hit it on the head about one of the most important lessons from jiu-jitsu and any of this, what we do just to add in the weapons-based environment, the scenario-based training, is that you absolutely have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we deal with that. I mean, there's times where, like, if you've had an injury, I definitely have dealt with this even recently, where your conditioning isn't where it used to be, and you're having to deal with trying to get back up those rungs, and you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's well said, Lee. Let's talk about our sponsor, Keepers Concealment, the original authority on appendix holsters and appendix carry, offering high-performance handgun training, specializing in concealed carry performance. Check out their flagship holster, the Keeper. This holster set the standard for quality, comfort, concealability, and retention. Keepers Concealment is also a proud affiliate of CCWsafe, the truly proven legal service membership company, offering dedicated legal defense. Heaven forbid you're forced to use lethal force. Use code KC10OFF and check them out at ccwsafe.com/keepers. To buy a holster, sign up for a class, inquire about hosting a course, or join CCWsafe. Find it all at keepersconcealment.com and use EvoTwins at checkout for 10% off. Now back to the interview. So kind of still sticking with jiu-jitsu for a minute, and then we definitely want to get into your SOCP, your career in that. You and I had another conversation. There's a few of us that are going through some test material right now, and I'm going to lay out front that when I originally got my blue belt, we had a similar system at that gym. Excuse me. But number one, it wasn't nearly as detailed. I mean, it was valuable stuff, but it wasn't nearly as detailed as our blue and purple belt test curriculum is.
You should see the brown belt test.
I think it's going to be a little while before I see that, but I look forward to that day at some point. But I used to be a little bit anti-test material for tests, but again, I'm still immature in that. Because I'm thinking in the back of my head, it's like, but it's about performance. It's about performance. How you're doing with your like ranks or your peer and above ranks. And you said something I think was really important, and that's about, hey, you can roll your belt with your belt, but do you understand the other very important aspects? And even though I kind of used to be anti-test material, I've kind of come around where I think it's important. And I think it's important for a couple of main reasons, mainly because the real self-defense paradigm doesn't include just being on the ground.
Right.
It includes striking, it includes clinch, it includes weapons. And unless there's some element of that in a jiu-jitsu gym's testing criteria, I mean, and I'm not trying to beat up on sports jiu-jitsu because it's phenomenal. I mean, and some of that adds to our weapons-based and our street jiu-jitsu in a way, right, depending on how you look at it. But that's the one thing that I have really come to appreciate recently is like our curriculum that you have for us includes straight up Thai boxing.
Yep.
It includes clinch from a kind of a Greco background, and it includes some of the old school and still valid Gracie self-defense stuff. And it's like, I appreciate that. And I wanted to ask your thoughts on that, and why that's important, frankly.
So the way I view it is, we like to say, if you've been in jiu-jitsu for a long time, we like to look at it as a complete martial art. But you can't be a complete martial art if all you do is leg locks and pull and guard. In a life fight, and if I'm fighting for life or death, I don't want to be on my back on the pavement. Do I need to understand how to do that in the event that I get there? Absolutely. However, I don't want to have to be there. So if I can do everything I can to avoid the situations where I'm going to put myself in danger of being on my back or having a would-be bad guy, holding me down and letting his buddies punch and kick me, I want to do that. That's why, you can roll to your belt level, but if you don't understand the how and why of life fighting on top of just sports jiu-jitsu, then it to me is not it doesn't mean as much.
Well, and some of the folks that are also other mentors of mine and ours, I should say, with Aaron, I think you're tracking the ShivWorks collective with Craig Douglas, Paul Sharp, Cecil Birch, all those guys. And they were having some discussion that I think was also kind of salient, was that with all of us that kind of work the jiu-jitsu with the striking, the weapons-based environment, the clinch, and Paul Sharp said something I thought was very valuable. He said, haven't we just returned back to what jiu-jitsu originally was?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I thought that was cool. And again, that's why I started thinking about that with the test material that you guys have put out. It's just real jiu-jitsu in my opinion.
Right. One of the things that I like to say, you probably have heard me say this in class once or twice, is that the self-defense is what gets people through the doors. The sports jiu-jitsu is what keeps people on the mat, because it's the fun part of it. The self-defense part of the jiu-jitsu isn't always the most fun. But in reality, it's probably the most important thing that we do. But the self-defense is what gets people through the doors and onto the mats, and the sports jiu-jitsu keeps people on the mat.
Well said. And Aaron, would you probably like to comment regarding kind of the sports side? Because let's face it, when we're rolling on the mats, we like Chris Howder says, train sports jiu-jitsu, but think street, but Aaron, your gym doesn't do actual sparring, which there's a part of that I kind of disagree with, of waiting until the combatives belt. But at the same time, it may not hurt some people to wait a little while. And then I'll ask your opinion on that too, Lee, here in a second. But Aaron, you just recently went through that big phase change and how much the rolling has benefited you. Talk on that a second.
So I definitely don't. I think maybe keeping white belts from rolling hard. I mean, just from my experience with spastic white belts, etc., that maybe you don't throw them right into rolling. But I do disagree with keeping you from legit rolling until you take a test in a couple years.
Which is essentially a 5 stripes on white belt. Would you agree? Because you get 4 stripes and then you test for your in your gym at least.
Yeah, but once I got in, and to be frank, I was kind of bored. And then once I started to roll, it's like, man, this is fun. And dude, I don't care who I tap, if I get a submission, if all I care about is the communication. I'm not talking about talking. I'm talking about the body communication, the feel, when you start to learn to feel the movements that they're either trying to bait you or they're trying to go for a specific submission, what I guess you would call some sort of reflex. But, I always brag on my wife, so I pushed her to get into jiu-jitsu, and she kind of put it off and didn't seem all that interested. And then she went to a Gracie, like a women's seminar, and she got hooked, dude. Now she's close to a second stripe on her blue. Boy, I can sometimes get her in a submission, sometimes, and so that speaks to technique, that speaks to experience, and how, to quote Paul Sharp, jiu-jitsu is a superpower, right? I love that. But back to just rolling, it put the fire back underneath me. Again, I don't roll because I want to try and beat people. I'm not trying to be cliche, and it's not about the win. It really isn't. I just really enjoy the cardio and the challenge and the fun that the communication, how it occurs. But I've been getting better at submissions and baiting myself. So,
right. The way I look at rolling is like it's as close as we can get to war without actually killing each other, and still be friends at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what a lot of people need. We need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially in this day and age where we have had the masculinity, number one. If we're not speaking about just men, we're actually, I think it's not just masculinity. I think it's the warrior mindset that actually is part of what, if not all of what made us into this great country. And we're going through a period of time where, it started with no fighting at all, immediate suspension, all of that. And I think it's important to not sound pro-violence. I'm not saying that at all. But I think both of you would agree that having a bloody nose or a fat lip never killed anybody. But boy, by golly, did it correct some real bad attitudes, right?
Right.
And I think that we have a society now that's so docile and not willing to fight for much, when sometimes, especially with the rising crime, we've talked about this a lot recently, we have a 30% increase in murder. And that's the highest rate change since the 60s, since the FBI started tracking that in the UCR. And it's not getting any better. It's especially most prevalent in the big cities, but people need to wise up. They may need some fighting skills, and there's no better avenue for learning that than jiu-jitsu, and specifically a gym like ours that also teaches self-defense. And Aaron, your gym teaches the self-defense Gracie stuff too.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I don't mean to rob a lot of the time, but yeah, I just think it's important. People need to know how to fight, and they need to have a warrior spirit. I think most of our audience members agree with that.
We're definitely preaching to the martial arts choir on this show. Now, it is hilarious when you see someone on Facebook or you interact with someone that the concept of violence and being prepared for violence is so foreign to them that they when they hear what I study, firearms, martial arts, carrying a can of pepper spray, even carrying a dang pocket knife to open up a box, they think you're nuts. Dude, those people have been conditioned. And, man, someday when that 42% probability, Eric, remember the Bureau of Justice Statistics did a long study and calculated that every human being in the United States has a 42% probability over their lifetime of being the victim of a Part 1 crime, which is assault, aggravated assault, which is attempted murder, rape, and then murder. And that's just one time.
And for some people, some people may understand 1 in 4 chance as well. Just to throw that statistic out there, it's a very high possibility.
Well, in violence, they're so conditioned against violence, and it's so foreign to them. They don't even want to hear those statistics. They say stupid crap like, "I don't want to live in a world where I have to think about that stuff." Well, let me give you a hint, buddy. You live in that world. No matter your refined attitude, you cannot fathom that there are individuals that walk among you, Mr. Soy Boy, tight jeans, skinny jeans. There are people that violence, they would never even consider that violence is not a valid method of communication, of interhuman communication. And
well, and Aaron, I'll say this, just like William April, the late, great William April used to say, they are not us. And people have to face that. Well, I think that is a very good segue, Lee, into your day job and SOCP. So I'll ask this 2 ways. Number one, can you describe for our audience members what SOCP is? And then tell us what a day, a normal typical day is for you at your and I say your day job. Shit, your day job is this all day, including teaching us. So
correct.
Yeah, go.
So
Go ahead.
I'll give you a typical. So first of all, SOCP is a Special Operations Combatives Program. It's invented by my boss and mentor, and one of my black belts, Greg Thompson. He started it as a way to essentially help warfighters come home in the event that they were presented with a situation where they need to put hands on an individual. So that's kind of just what that is. I teach it, but typically a typical day for me is go into work at 6 o'clock in the morning, between 6 and 6:30. Have a class. We are available for the rest of the day to teach individuals who want to come down and do anything from sports jiu-jitsu to boxing, striking, kicking, any knife fighting, improvised weapons, just tactical fighting in general. My partner and I are available. I say my partner and I. I'm the least senior of the crew. But either way, we're there available throughout the day for those individuals or groups of individuals to come train, whatever it is they need us to train. And then I have a little bit of downtime in the middle of the day. And by a little bit, I mean like an hour. And most of that hour is spent driving home. And then I go pick up my kids. And then I come to the academy and teach. It's a typical day. There are days where we put on our SOCP suit, which is an impact type suit. And we play bad guys for good guys. And we get to, it's essentially a glorified game of paintball. It's too much fun to call it work. It hurts because we get punched and kicked and flashbangs thrown at us and We get shot with sim rounds, and we are told that there are door charges going up some places. So it's fun though. So that's I say 20% of my job is that, playing Op 4 for whoever tasks us out.
Man, it's actually getting hurt's pretty fun sometimes.
I suppose.
Well, and what I mean is that, not really getting injured, but when, I haven't ever come even close to what it sounds like you're describing, but, Eric and I took a force-on-force class about a month or so ago, and I don't remember getting hit with those sim rounds, but I pull my clothes off to take a shower, and I've got broken skin bruises all over my body, and it's just like, man, that proves you had some dadgum fun,
Yeah.
But now, when you say you go to go in the morning to start your day at a class, now is that on the base or?
Yeah, it's on Fort Bragg.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Cool.
Well, and just really hitting that point, Lee, about the simunitions or the UTM and what Aaron was getting at. I think that's just more of the real jiu-jitsu that folks, if they so desire to be more capable, that they should seek that type of training out.
Correct.
And that's another thing. A lot of our fellow students at our gym, I know they know what you do, but I don't know if some of them actually know the magnitude of that and the value of that. And now I commend you because, man, you've done some blade work with us and some gun work stuff, and I thought it was great material, and exposing our gym to that stuff is really cool. I just think maybe a lot of them, though, don't really know how involved you are in that, though.
Right. You're probably right. I don't talk about it much. The guys, the guys and girls that know, and the guys and girls that don't know either don't care, or I just don't tell them because it's just another day at work for me.
Well, and what I might add, I just want to push clarity, is it's just because you have no reason. You're not a person saying, "Hey, look what I do," and
right.
That's you're super humble, just like you want to claim that you're not our instructor when you are, but
I'm not an instructor.
Lee's gonna tap me out for driving home that instructor thing, and that's cool. but I just think it's also important that folks that they're real serious about this walk, that they should seek out training like now. Granted, SOCP is still it's mainly military though, right? It's not civilian oriented. Now, granted, obviously there's civilian techniques, but and I'm asking out of a stance of ignorance. I'm well aware of Greg Thompson. I mean, I've listened to him on multiple podcasts. I've researched what he does. I mean, he does awesome stuff. And as a matter of fact, his mindset is very much like our instructors in what we do in the weapons-based environment.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it's funny. I sit there and say that, but one of the podcasts I heard him on was with our instructor, Craig, and good friend, Craig Douglas. I don't know. Did you ever hear that podcast when they were on the same show?
I think I heard it, but I didn't. It's been a while.
It was a cool conversation because of how much Craig and Greg think alike, right, just with maybe different methodologies. But yeah, so man, that's great stuff, Lee. I just want to make sure that we kind of cover some of it. So I don't know. I think that kind of brings us into your carry gear.
Right.
If you don't mind, do you mind telling us what we don't talk about gear a lot. We're not a gear show,
right? But
we do have audience members that enjoy that. But what's your daily carry?
So for I carry
a 50 caliber Desert Eagle.
I I carry a 44 Magnum. No. So as far as like firearms, I carry a Glock 19.
Jesus' gun.
Yep. Didn't I tell you Aaron calls it that, Lee?
I don't think you told me that. Yeah, I carry a Glock 19. For whatever reason, they had a special, like the gray flag edition. And it was the same price as just a plain black. I was like, I like to be like, not that anybody's ever going to see my gun, but I was like, this one looks cooler, so let's do that one.
Now, what was it again, Lee? We hadn't talked about that.
Yeah, what
was it again?
It's the gray flag edition. It's factory Cerakoted. The lower is Cerakoted, just plain gray, and then the slide is factory coated or factory Cerakoted with an American flag. I'll bring it in and show it to you.
Ooh. That sounds. I can't believe we hadn't talked. Say that again.
I don't typically carry to the academy because it's only a 6-minute drive, and I just usually go straight back home. Plus, I don't like leaving something like that floating around with my office unlocked.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and a bunch of kids running around.
good call.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no unsecured guns for sure. That's good.
It's kind of like we also talk about, and this is always a good reminder that folks' cars aren't holsters. Yeah, so we always like to say, hey, have some form of being able to lock it up.
Right. Yeah,
if it's not on our body.
If you do have it in your car, man, there's real inexpensive, and I'm not talking to you, Lee. I'm just saying to the audience, if you're leaving your car in your gun in a big car holster, make sure you spend about $50 on a decent safe that you can latch to the bottom of your seat. It's real easy to do.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily cost that much too. There's some of the cheap. Go ahead.
I have one that was just $25, just a simple lockbox.
Cool.
That
absolutely
a cable that attaches to it, and you can attach it to kind of wherever you need to attach it to.
There you go, brother. That's exactly what we're talking about. Good bring up of, and they aren't that expensive. Well, awesome. So. What else? So we got the Glock 19, like Aaron said.
I have a Glock 19 with the TLR1 front light on it, and then I carry that with I appendix carry. I know people are there's like 2 or 3 different schools of thought, and people are like very, very divided on that. But I carry appendix because of what I do. It seems to me like that's if I get jammed up in a space, it's a little easier for me to draw. But I carry in a Vetter holster. That it just, for whatever reason, it's the most comfortable holster I have. I have a Glock 43 that I carry as well, but that's my motorcycle gun because it's a little smaller and easier to
Right. That's what I am carrying in my gym shorts right now. Is my M43 right now.
But it for somehow the 19 with the TLR1 is way more comfortable. Maybe it's the holster. I'm not sure, but
I think, and Aaron can attest to this too. Some folks will say it's simply the surface area.
Yep.
More surface area spread out. In many cases, most folks leads to less hot spots.
Probably right.
and
go ahead,
I was just going to say counterintuitive. Whenever I order a holster, I order a holster. Here's a 10 core Khartoum 3, I guess is what it is. It's a 17 length, even though I carry a 19 in it often.
Right.
Longer holsters, for one thing, I don't know how important this is, but there is the aspect that they should help against rollout and a tussle, and they're more comfortable than a shorter holster. It's pretty amazing.
Right.
So when I help people out with buying holsters, that's one of the things I say: buy a holster longer than your gun. You're gonna thank me for it.
And Lee, what's interesting, this is kind of cool because you and I have known each other for quite a while now, and you and I don't really talk about these things. We're trained in jiu-jitsu. We don't really talk about a lot of this, but Aaron and I are absolutely appendix carriers ourselves, and it hadn't been that long, that maybe a few years now that we've been running appendix, but and Craig disagreed with me the last time we talked about this at ECQC, and God forbid I disagree with Craig necessarily, but I still feel like I can retain the pistol and appendix a lot easier than strong side.
Yeah, I found that interesting because I thought I was going to teach my son a lesson with Craig Douglas backing me up, because my son and I were kind of, going, man, appendix is easier to retain. No, I think that hip is. And I say, Craig, okay, Craig. And I had a big smile on my face. Which is easier to keep a hold of in a tussle? And he goes, oh, it doesn't matter. I was like, dang, Craig, you just messed me up, dude. But
and again, I mean, I think it's personal preference in that sense too. But
I don't want to. Sorry, Eric, but I just don't want to leave this out because Lee said it's controversial. It still is. It's taken over for the 9mm versus 45. It's so funny when you see somebody post online, man, you're going to shoot your dick off, and I want to go, dude, no matter how, maybe when I sit down, it's pointed at something, but dude, if you have the proper holster and the proper reholstering technique, it doesn't point at anything.
Well, and we make this point all the time, and Spencer Keepers, one of our sponsors, I think,
and the father of the modern appendix holster, by the way,
absolutely, and his method of showing people that's hogwash is really good with a SERP pistol with the laser on. Everybody that right. carries strong side, every time they reholster, they're covering their leg, and of which they had a real bad trajectory with a round. If they did have a negligent discharge, it could go down there from Worrell versus a properly chosen holster that properly jut the hips out, and the angular portion of the holster, it never covers your body as you're reholstering. But I feel like we're taking up Lee's.
Yeah, Lee, let's get back into
we'll
Lee
shut
stuff.
up now. So Lee, we'll shut up now.
No, you're fine.
Continue telling us about your carry, buddy.
Okay. No, like I said, I carry the 19 is my typical carry. 19 was TLR1, and with the better holster, and then most days I carry the SOCP Mini. Shameless plug for Greg Thompson.
Yep. Yeah. It's a good knife.
I like the Mini because it fits a little better into the way I carry. And then as far as like pocket knives, typically I carry a Kershaw, but lately a buddy of mine left me when he moved to Texas, left me a Spyderco, and I've been carrying that. And then that's about all I carry, really.
Nice. That's a good carry. I'm converted back to Spyderco. Back in my day at the Inosanto gym, we were carrying Spydercos, and then we went Benchmade, and but I just got back to Spyderco. I like them as my utility knife. Oh yeah,
what I've been carrying.
Again, we never talk about this stuff, man. We have to do a podcast to talk about this stuff. I guess, Lee, it's kind of funny. Well, so with that said, man, I think we've hit on a bunch of stuff, and we don't want to take a lot more of your time. Plus, I know you got to get up early.
No, you're fine. Take your time.
But I know we got to talk about music, though. Aaron, what do you think?
Definitely. So this is the most important section of the show. Now, before we go into a really important question, so I heard today that you play guitar. Now, not putting you on the spot or anything, but I'd at least like to know what kind of music you're into to at least work on, etc., and what got you into playing guitar.
So my entire family on my mom's side is musically inclined. My uncle, who is the closest to me in age, plays guitar in a band. They do mostly covers. It's just like a really fun band. They're called Mother Jane. down in
Mother Vane.
Mother Rain.
Oh, that's cool.
Then they've been playing for as long as literally as long as I can remember. I think they're just best friends who grew up in high school and have been playing in a band together since then. And he's a few years older than me, so they've been playing together for a very long time. But he's kind of the main reason I got into it. And then I bought my first guitar when I was 15 with for $50 at some pawn shop in the little town that I grew up in. And then I kind of just picked it up from there. And my dad bought me for Christmas when I was like 16 or 17, maybe for Christmas. He bought me a Ibanez GAX 70.
Oh, cool.
And that's the guitar that I've played since then. Now,
can you say that again? It's a JX?
It's Ibanez GAX 70. It's one of their lower end. It's kind of, it's got the SG styling.
Oh, cool.
The Gibson SG type styling. And the color is called Transparent Butterscotch. Not that I like it that much or anything. But yeah, that's the electric guitar that I play. I don't remember the brand of the acoustic guitar that I play. I just know that I play it. That's about the only thing that I play anymore is acoustic.
So
I love it.
I can't tell. It looks backwards to me in my camera.
It reads Ibanez here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so. It was fun for you to say Ibanez because when I was a teenager, I think I was 16. I started playing guitar when I was 15 also. And my mom, I remember the day she took me to a Superman exhibit at a local museum that was really cool. A bunch of the outfits and stuff in the movies that Superman wore.
Right.
But I remember right after that, she took me to a music store down the street, and I picked up my first Ibanez, and it was ridiculously better than any guitar I played, with the thinner neck, real smooth.
Right.
And so I was a huge fan of Ibanez for a long time, and through my 20s, that's all I gigged with, and I didn't have one for a while. And then on a whim, I got this. This is a Ibanez Paul Gilbert model because he's my favorite guitar player. And this one was one of their high-end ones that's made in Japan. And I found it in London because they didn't make these. As far as I know, they never shipped these to the United States. But yeah, that's fun. And for the heck of it, here I'll show you my latest one. So this is a Cole. This is actually my own model. It's called a Cole 8016.
Nice.
So Aaron Davis, and it's because it's influenced by the old Gibson 335s because the first guitar I ever played was a 335, so I kind of brought it back to that for fun. But Eric knows this guitar took 4.5 years to get. I just got it at Christmas time.
And it's handmade by an amazing luthier named Saul Cole, who's an amazing dude. I need to hit Saul up too just to say hello.
Oh yeah, he asks about you all the time, man. But
yeah, he's a good dude.
So what kind of music influenced you to play though, real quick, and then we'll get to our final question.
So I grew up on a little farm. My mom always listened to country music. So I kind of started listening to country music, and then for whatever reason, it's early 90s, I started getting into like the early 90s hip hop. And then I went to my grandma's house, and one of the kids down the industry, who's still one of my best friends today, when I was maybe 13 or 14, had a Metallica album called And Justice.
Yeah.
And then so he let me listen to the song One, and I was hooked. That was the day that I was like, okay, this is what real music is. So we listened to that album basically that day and then the next day. And then we also listened to Blink-182's Dude Ranch. And then I started with like Metallica and Pantera and that kind of stuff. And then moved on to now it's a little bit of literally everything. Everything from bands like Upon a Burning Body down to Aaron Lewis's country stuff. I like music. I've been to quite a few concerts since I was 16. So I don't necessarily have a big library of things that I play anymore because I don't have 2 kids. I have 2 jobs basically, and this is way more of a passion for me. Plus my side hobby kind of takes up a lot of time. So I don't really play as much as I would kind of like to. So I don't really have a way to, or I don't have a like what influences me.
No. You answered it fully. All you had to do is say you heard that Metallica record and it was on. Well, because
100%.
The reason why I say that's all you needed to say is that's exactly how Eric and I got into music. I was in my buddy's grandfather's garage. Funny to say garage. And we were listening to Last Caress when they were covering that Misfits song Last Caress on the Garage Days Revisited album. Right. And we said, we're getting guitars and we're going to play this song. And that literally from that day on, I was scheming how I could get a guitar when I was 15 years old. And not too long after that, I got one. But Metallica for me too. Now, I'm not as huge of a Metallica fan as I used to be, especially at that time, but they are still a big part of who I am and why I started playing music. And then at the same time, you'll hear me listen to some Sarah Bareilles, you know. So I have a swath of music that I listen to also. Yeah. But
if you looked at my Google Play or Google Music or whatever it is, I think it's YouTube Music now. Either way, if you looked at my playlist right now, you would be like, what is wrong with this guy? Because it literally goes from like bands like Infinite Annihilator to like one of my guilty pleasure songs is an old Alanis Morissette song. So everything in between that.
Yeah. Well, see, Lee, I have to interject, man. It's again, we have to have you on our podcast to learn some of these details. And that's quite all right. I mean, when I'm at the gym and when you're at the gym, we're focused on freaking jiu-jitsu. But it's really cool because, frankly, I honestly thought, and there's been some mixture of a little bit of, you know, some of what you're playing sometimes at the gym and just some of the discussions, your enunciation of some of your music. Even though I hadn't heard it before, I'm telling you, I spot on figured that's the way you thought towards music. So it's interesting that it turns out to be exactly what I had thought. And yeah, it's cool. And frankly, that may seem weird to you, but it's not to Aaron and I, because even though Aaron's probably more in your broad spectrum than I am, but I still am as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool, man. This is fun for sure. And at some point, I mean, I showed you a picture. You can see my drums right there.
Yeah.
You may or may not have noticed the double pedal in there. I'll still get after some one every now and then. So sometime I'll have to have you over and we'll do some jamming or something.
Dude, that was a guilty pleasure, a Katy Perry song.
Oh, I guess I didn't hear you said Katy Perry.
Oh yeah, man, it's it.
Oh yeah, I about disowned her with her Obama bullshit, but I still, she's awesome, man.
Now I don't dig her music that much, but she can freaking sing, and she sings live, and she plays guitar live.
She's a good musician.
Oh, yeah,
regardless of what you think about her music.
And this song, Never Really Over, is simply brilliant in the lyrics and the vocal melodies and stuff. So I was just being a nerd and saying, yeah, that's.
Well, Lee, it is plenty late, man. I know you got an early morning, and I know I'll be seeing you at the gym tomorrow night.
No, you won't see me tomorrow night.
Oh, what's let's see tomorrow. Oh, who's teaching tomorrow?
Adam will be teaching tomorrow.
Oh, right on. Okay, Mr. Daybreakers, our Daybreakers coach.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, cool. Now you certainly deserve to take time off every now and then, man.
No, we have I don't know if you ever met Victor Thompson. Yeah, he's getting married tomorrow.
That's right. I wasn't sure that I would say it on the air, but I thought it did have to do with a wedding.
Yeah, it did.
So okay.
Well, before you get off, Lee, tell everybody the name of your gym, etc. Just in case they're rolling through town and want to roll.
Right. So we are Team Rock Southern Pines. We are located inside of or under the umbrella of the Martial Arts Academy of Southern Pines. So yeah. If
awesome. And Lee, do you want to tell folks how to get in touch with you?
Yeah. You can find me on Facebook at Lee King and on Instagram. I have 2 accounts, but my main account is King_Lee_83.
Awesome. Yeah.
Wait. Maybe it's just King Lee 83. Let me double check that.
Yeah, no problem, buddy.
Because I have, like I said, I have 2 accounts. That is right. It's underscore. Right. So King_Lee_83.
Rock on.
Well, you're
awesome, unfortunately, you're gonna get thousands of friend requests now.
Okay.
Thousands.
We have a niche market, Lee. We do have thousands of listeners, but it's very much a niche market. But we do this because we love this segment of self-reliance and so yeah. So we're not trying to get a Joe Rogan podcast because that would be impossible in this genre.
Yeah. Well, man, it's awesome meeting you, Lee. Eric's told me a lot about you, so it's cool to chat with you.
Don't believe any of it.
Well,
it's all true.
My bro doesn't lie, so.
Well, and frankly, Lee, as EvoSec, as we start doing more classes in this area, Aaron's going to be coming here more. So,
yep.
He's going to be on the mats with me.
Awesome.
And
looking forward.
And you'll have.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to throw out that you have a good evening, Lee, and I'll let you all go, and I'm going to go probably find some bourbon.
Well, it's great to meet you too. So yeah, you guys have a great evening.
All
right, Lee. Then I guess I won't see you tomorrow, but I'll see you next Monday then.
Yep, absolutely.
Happy Easter, man.
Happy Easter, you guys too.